All right, welcome back, guys. Today is a really special day for Bell Break and Fix and Road Chorus. For those of you are new here, we are Road Chorus. We stream from 9:30 to 10:30 on weekdays and 9:30 to 11:30 on weekends. So, whoever is wondering who is this new person around here in this stream today, this is Andre. I want to welcome you, Andre, and I want to thank you for joining us today. Andre works as a principal developer at Seek right now, and he's going to be our special guest tonight. Welcome, Andre.
Thanks, Kartik. Yeah, thanks, Zane. It's great to be on.
All right. Then what do we have today?
Fantastic. Thank you, Karthik, for the awesome intro, and once again, thank you, Andre, for taking the time to come here. Really appreciate it. By the way, I love the early, as in very advanced Christmas lights decoration at the back.
Yeah, it's I always put a little bit of tech with everything I do. So these are all controlled using my Google Home. So I can say turn on lights, turn off lights. It makes it easy when you go to bed to turn everything off at the same time. And it's also nice to have some lights on.
That's fantastic. Yeah, it's looking really as in a original techie room.
You guys need some fancy lights as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm working on that one. Yeah. All right, guys. So I'm just gonna give a bit of context. So we'll be continuing the building, as in getting the board name from the front end to the back end, and while the application deploys into SAM, which is cloud formation, we'll be asking Andre a few questions, and if you guys have any questions you would like to ask as well, feel free to comment it, and we will be highlighting those questions. Over to you, Karthik.
But before we begin, everyone has their vote.
Yes,
you got to stay hydrated.
Yeah.
There you go. Perfect.
All right. Cool. Alrighty. Jen, you want to go ahead and share your screen?
Yes. So I've already logged into AWS to save us a bit of time.
That's pretty good.
And I've, if you want to get the middleware up on your side, and I'll just control the screen sharing options.
Yeah.
All right.
So shared my screen permanently. You can put me up and down.
That's brilliant. So I'll just zoom in a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so that's a bit too much.
Curiosity, Andre, have you worked with Fetch APIs?
Yeah, I've used a few APIs in my time.
Okay, we have an error. We'll solve it today.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm interested in seeing how you guys attack the problem. I think before we get started, we should all have a hydration. There's someone called Alexander Gammerman who says we should get some water in the gullet.
All
Perfect. So let's do that.
Sounds like a wise man.
Okay. So, like you probably already know, Karthik, that we were at the point that the API, as in the Express app, as a backend, is actually moving the data properly in the in Postman, and we already tested that with Postman. Or obviously, so I'll just switch to your screen now, and we can see how can we improve what error we are having on your end. All right, so I'll just share your screen now. There we go.
Yep.
Brilliant.
I'll go ahead and run the thing again so that everyone can see.
Yeah, the local server.
Yeah.
Alexander Gamerman. A question for Andy, which is Andre, I would say. So when do you think it's time to move away from IDO's services and back to the monolith?
I'm not exactly sure what the question is asking. I think the question is asking, when do you move away from a monolith to a microservice architecture? Is that correct, Alexander? Or are you asking in the reverse? When do you move back to monolithic? Because that's a more interesting question.
Mr. Tickles 2020, hello, welcome. Good to have you.
All right. No error here. I'll just open the endpoint once.
All right, cool.
But pretty sure there's nothing posted for now.
Right. I'll do a get from the postman just to
It's
make
fine.
sure.
Fine. I got it here.
Oh wow, there are many.
I don't know how we got 30 boards. I'm pretty sure there were not 30 boards yesterday.
It wasn't because I was
All
working
right.
off to the stream, but still couldn't get it to work.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
All right,
All right.
so
You wanna go ahead and delete
um,
it first before we move on?
yes, I'll do that. But okay, can you please make sure that you uh attend the chat when
Surely.
I'm doing things on the screen, and when you
All right.
are, I'll make sure the chat is attended. All right, so just opening up.
Yeah, you need to take that question off because I can't do it right now.
I can answer the question. So Mr. Tickles asks, is this Java? This is JavaScript. And Alexander asks the success of moving back to a monolith from microservices, which I think is an interesting question because that's not very common. So the benefits of moving from a monolithic to a microservice architecture. Well, let's start from the fundamentals. So what is a monolithic architecture? That's usually having a single deployable asset and having all of your code and all of your endpoints in one deployable bundle. The difference, and then you find at some point that your code base gets too big and it becomes too hard to refactor your single code base. Maybe you have multiple team members and you start to lose agility. So the next way of developing is to logically break up that single model deployment and endpoints into separate deployable bundles. When people say microservices, the proper meaning of microservices is you have a full stack in one deployable bundle, or not a deployable bundle. You have one full stack of resources. So you have your database and you have your API, and maybe even you have a front end, but sometimes the front end is not part of the microservices architecture. But it's a common issue when you have a single database, but you have multiple APIs or resources all accessing the same database. That's not strictly a microservices architecture. So it's not very common for people to do pure microservice architecture from the start. But yeah, so once you get to the point and you break up your monolithic architecture, people usually find that they get a lot more flexibility and deployment speed. But moving the reverse is quite uncommon. I personally have never seen a company do the reverse and move back to a monolithic architecture, usually because at that point, when they've decided to break up into a microservice architecture, there's just so much code that it'd be quite unmaintainable if it was a single global bundle.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen workshops on code deploy as well, and how they focus on how they want to keep pipelines kind of broader, or sometimes even narrower as well. But I do get your point that how this is getting kind of trivial at this point.
Yeah, because microservices definitely slow things down, because to do it properly, you need separate deployment pipelines.
Yeah, sure.
Matt Cole says, "Hey, ass."
Hey, Matt. Glad you're here. That's excitement. Okay. Alexa says that I hear APIs are fast. Andrei can to speak to this from experience and why they are fast. Would you wanna get on top of that?
Trying to think about how to answer that question. So APIs are meant for computers to access. So usually they don't serve up human readable data. I think it's application program interface or whatever it is. So one reason that APIs are usually fast is because they don't have any of that front end logic that usually slows down the page. So that by itself is one reason why it's fast. But again, the API is just the serving of information in a more sort of flexible way. It's got nothing to do with speed. You can make a really slow API.
Right.
And when you say API, they're usually referring to something that returns JSON over HTTP. But Mr. Tickles mentioned WebSockets are faster, which are usually done through a connection, sometimes like UDP, which is a different protocol, TCP, which most games actually use, because the difference between TCP and UDP is that TCP is strictly ordered, but like it's ordered and it also has fault tolerance. So if something happens along the wire between Zane and Kartik, it'll get retried. But with UDP, if you send a message and it doesn't arrive, it just doesn't arrive. It could also arrive out of sync. So that's not really an issue with games. If you're moving around a map, you just throw. If you get messages out of order, you just throw the information away and you just keep going. But if you do something like a financial transaction, you need to make sure that it arrives. Guaranteed delivery. Yeah.
Right. All right.
But yeah,
that was.
It's WebSockets are the same as APIs. They can also be extremely slow. There's no speed, and APIs or WebSockets are usually two separate things. Depends on how well you implement them.
Right. That was pretty insightful. We have another comment from Alexa saying, another question for Andrei. As a swag collecting enthusiast, what is the best type of swag/coding to collect at tech events? Okay, that's a tricky one. This could cause some fire.
I'm for collecting my swag. So I went to Las Vegas for an AWS event called reInvent a few years ago, and we both managed to fill up at least one full duffel bag full of swag each. We brought back. So I was in the situation where I had way too much swag. So I actually think this is a quite good question, because at some point you can't keep all the swag. You have to just keep the good stuff. So yeah, I thought that some really interesting swag items I got from the past were those metal drinking straws, as opposed to the plastic ones or metal ones. I like to reuse and not being able to reuse stuff.
That one.
Not throw away. So that was pretty cool to have one of those that was engraved with the company name. That was pretty cool swag. I'm also a fan of tech socks. Yeah. So I don't even know. Maybe this one is Chime or something. I don't know.
Nice one.
I don't know what the Chime logo is actually. And even if it may have even changed, because these socks are a few years old now.
The real question is, do you keep your Azure shirts near to your AWS shirts or not?
I'm wearing tech shirts. I don't know what it is. I like wearing tech shirts at events, but
right.
Not a huge fan of free advertising for companies. Socks are always fun.
Socks are the best. Okay, nice.
Or hoodies.
Yeah,
my hoodie's getting a bit old though. My reInvent one. It's a bit
right.
The new one. I need to speak to my AWS representative.
How many have you got?
How many watts?
Socks have you got?
I got rid of most of the ones I didn't like. I came back with about 30 pairs. So I've only kept about 10. in terms of tech sheet t-shirts, I had 40, 50, but
Wow.
I got rid of all the ones I don't wear.
There's
True.
more
True.
shopping trip. Right, we have another
Yeah.
question.
Just a bit of an update for the show. Karthik, I'm thinking that we can just focus on the question and answers because
All right. Yeah.
we're definitely getting a lot of calling question, and I don't really want to miss out on my learnings too that I'm getting from Andre.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so just to update the viewers, keep the really awesome quality questions coming up, and the statement loving it. We'll just be focusing on the questions and answers from now on. So yeah, you want to read out the question from Alexander Gamerman?
Surely, I just want to point out, if at some point we don't have some questions, we can get back to work always,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
we'll be flexible. So,
yeah.
are you okay with that, Andre?
Sorry?
Are you okay with that? Dynamics.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, Alexa asks, would having GoTo in JavaScript have help with debugging a share app, as you can jump over non-working code?
I'm
That's
just
a
thinking
tricky
what
one.
that means.
Yeah, I'm just thinking what the question means mostly. All right, Alexa, do you want to give some more clarity on the question, maybe? Sorry about that.
I mean, when it comes to GoTo, I think what Alex is mentioning is you can sort of jump over code that you're not using. When you're debugging code that's either server bound, like an API, or front end, like the React app you're coding, a lot of times either in the console or in the unit or in the like VS Code, you can actually attach your debugger and have it breakpoint for you. And
Yeah.
in most languages, you can actually jump around the code and just ignore places to debug. You just skip whole blocks of section just by dragging where you currently are. That's my experience with C#. Visual Studio is a fantastic debugger where you can rewind. You can actually go back in time. You can go back in time and replay certain pieces of code.
But is that considered as a good practice or a bad practice?
When it comes to debugging, there are no real bad practices. Like whatever gets you to the core of the problem the fastest, the better.
Okay.
Like you can do whatever you have to do to get the code running, console log, throw exceptions, like literally anything's on the table. But when you're actually making the code, once you figured out the issue and you're actually getting it ready for production, you want to strip that all back to make it as lean as possible, get rid of all that debugging cruft and just make it work.
Right. Because the reason why I asked you this question is because in my works code I see a lot of go-to statements, and the senior dev was highly against it, but there must have been a purpose that they are in the code in the first place. So I just thought that due to the
I just got a delivery from DoorDash.
oh, brilliant. Dinner time, eh?
Oh, that's cool.
Oh.
Hey, Matt.
That's pretty funny. So yeah, when it comes to go-tos, like I would never use go-to. There's no real need to use go-to in even debugging code because of the reasons I mentioned. You don't need to skip over code with go-to anymore. And go-to is definitely not great in terms of production code just because it makes it unreadable and it makes it very difficult to debug. I guess I'll find out later. Matt asks, is it chicken or lamb? But I just had I'm not going to have a second dinner.
Yeah.
I'll have it for lunch. Live stream during lunch, and you guys can mukbang and watch me eat it.
Oh, do you have your live stream as well?
Yeah, I do it. I do it for work.
Oh,
Zoom.
okay. I didn't know that. What's the channel?
I mean, it's like internally. We
Oh,
chat.
okay.
Have like just an internal catch up where we just talk and over lunch.
Right.
It's
Right,
hard to
right,
get the FaceTime when you're working remotely. It's really important to keep up your.
Yeah, surely.
It's important to keep up the morale of the team.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, for sure. That's always good, and I think that's one of the real nice quality of being a leader as well.
Yeah.
So
This channel
that's
has a
fantastic.
history of.
You had that experience, Zane. How do you keep the morale of the stream going?
How do I keep the morale of the stream going? By just keeping streaming fun rather than just considering as a task. So even though we have moments, as in me and Kay, we both mess up, and there you go. um, we both mess up, but we learn from each other, and that really helps in keeping this streaming going because we are actually working on our communications and just overall learnings. So that would be my take. How about you, Karthik?
Yeah, I mean,
What's your
when
take
it
on that?
comes to obviously like streaming is something which you might want to quantify, like how many viewers and stuff like that, but it really doesn't matter until unless you're kind of having fun, which we are. So when it comes down to morale, it's really something which the good part is we haven't really thought about this before you kind of brought it up. So that's like the best
Yeah,
part that we didn't really think about it ever till now. So that's a good part.
Yep.
yeah, that's fantastic. Because I think when you get asked these kind of questions, it really provokes your thoughts. As in, even though you haven't even thought about it, just the fact that you've been asked a question, it really forces you to think, which is always
Yeah,
a good thing as well.
totally.
So, just a question for you, many chicken nuggets. How many chicken nuggets can you eat in one sitting? Kind of a fun question here.
And these are the important questions. So
Yeah.
I might share my screen.
Yeah. Ah, cool.
is there a
Brilliant.
video of eating chicken nuggets? We can make it go viral if you want.
That's
So back in the day, I actually was I was in a small company with a few friends that we started from scratch, and we decided we just started it up to do some projects we wouldn't normally get at work and get some additional experience. And every now
Yeah.
and then we'd catch up and we'd do hackathons where we'd all come together for the night and do some coding and have some good times. And there was this one joker that every single person that came, he asked them to bring nuggies, as he affectionately called them, nuggets.
okay.
About 6 people came and they all independently got asked to bring nuggets. So we had about this plus extra food. There was like 5 kilos or something of chicken nuggets.
Oh,
Wow.
So
I think
that was my most amazing chicken nugget experience. We all felt pretty sick after that, I think, but we got lots of we had a good time.
I'm going through like something, when you have like really heavy food and then you just don't want to look at food at all. And now it's made me look at like 5 kilos of chicken nuggets. I'm like, I'm done with this stream today.
Yeah, I'm never going to eat that many chicken nuggets again in my life. That was a more youthful Andrei with a better metabolism.
yeah,
Yeah,
true. That
pretty good.
true.
What time do you guys
Yeah.
eat dinner out of interest? Because I saw you guys were eating a kebab the other day at about this time. Do you eat dinner right now?
Sorry. Oh wait, dinner today? That's what you're
Yep.
asking? Oh,
Yep.
I had biryani.
But what time do you normally eat dinner?
Oh, okay. Like during the stream, sometimes, but usually like 8:30, I guess. What you say?
Mine is say around 7 to 8, and one normally have for dinner is mainly fish, as in the grilled fish, as in those bass fillets, and veggies and rice. So they
Right.
are pretty good. Do you
Yeah, I
guys like
eat a
fish?
lot earlier than that. I eat at like 5 o'clock. If I'm finished my meal by 5:30, I'm happy.
Oh
Ah,
wow.
okay, cool.
I'm an old man.
But
No,
how
I
do you
cannot.
don't feel sleepy? Sorry, don't feel hungry after that.
No,
Wow. Okay.
three big meals a day, but then I don't really eat much else. No snacks or anything.
Yeah. I do have some questions for you, Andre, if you don't mind. Me asking those.
No,
So these are some like basic questions when you it comes down to like getting into software dev and stuff. So a lot of people like it's not me, it's just like general questions. The sort of first question comes around like a lot of my mates I've seen in uni as well, and a lot of people in general that they find it really difficult to find their niche when they get into tech. Um, it's also because the fact that it's such a new industry, like it's probably the newest industry ever till now. So and there's just so much stuff which is dynamic, literally every day, everything's coming up. So how do you like kind of sit down and settle down? Okay, data analytics is what I want to do, and this is what's going to happen because it's
yeah,
just
that's an
really
excellent question.
doing like anxiety thingy at this point. So what do you
Yeah.
have to say for the new developers or new people in coming to tech?
Yeah. So like you mentioned, like tech is an incredibly evolving, fast evolving field where there's too much for everyone to know. So
Yeah,
back in the day, back in the 90s and, the early sort of 2000s, it was very common to just focus on front end or back end, one specific language and one specific part of an application, and that was enough. But that's not really the case anymore, just because there's so much to learn and so many pieces of the puzzle, and there's so
yeah,
much value to be added by knowing everything. And there's this term that was sort of very common a while ago, but it's called the T-shaped skill sets. T.
Yeah, yeah,
And
I've heard about
the idea of that is that you should be an expert in a specific thing, but you should also have a breadth of knowledge across many, many things, because that breadth of knowledge will help you going forward in ways that you don't really expect. So
that's true.
my suggestion to all juniors is you should be working with as much tech as you can. Try not to focus on one specific thing unless that's your sort of expertise, because like everyone has a day job, right? Everyone's going to be working in something and they get better in that faster. But you should still strive to understand as much tech as you can at a really broad scale. But I would recommend for juniors not to get tied down to a specific field too quickly, because there's really a lot to learn, and most of the time people don't even know what they enjoy until they've tried a lot of things. Like so many
Yeah,
people I know have gone from back to front or front to back end after 5 or 6 years of their career, because they don't even realize what they enjoy until that time.
right. But
So give everything a go, see what you enjoy, keep an open
yeah,
mind.
but that's kind of also a thing, right? Like even when you're kind of trying stuff, what's the formula? What's the template that okay, this is the point I should stop now, and this is not really worth my time.
Well, your time, the value in your time is subjective, right? Like if you're enjoying it and you're gaining something out of it, like that's what there is to gain in your own private time. Like at work, that's a different story. It's like I strongly believe that people should be doing whatever it does, like maybe being a little bit more pragmatic and getting more done with less tech. Maybe
Yeah,
like maybe not trying the newest technology, maybe using whatever the
mm,
company's already using and just getting features out the door and delivering value to customers.
mhm.
But in your personal life and whatever you find interesting, I think that thinking about it from a value point of view is like the wrong way to go. Like just keep on diving into something. If you find that you're enjoying it and you're getting something out of it, you're learning something, then why would you stop?
Yeah,
Because
that's
like
true.
if you're doing it from the point of view of getting another job, and you're thinking about it from an aspect of what should I be working on that other people think is valuable? Like that's the wrong way to go about it. You should be really passionate about something and just go for it.
That's true.
What is that dinging? So much dinging.
Karthik, can you mute that and notifications, please?
I was actually pasting the link on Discord, so that's why I had to open it.
Oh, okay. Cool. We have another
There's so many
question.
messages here. So front end is preferable. Back end developers have weird interests. He is just one area of depth, but the pi person has a primary and depth and a secondary area of depth. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Yeah,
That's
I think that there. Yeah, I suppose you can have as many points as you want. You could probably call it H-shaped skill set, M-shaped skill set, like you whatever you call it. The idea is that you're an expert in something, but you have broad skills. If you want to focus on something secondary, because I think this sort of comes back to the question of like, what is a full stack developer? Can you truly be a full stack developer? I don't know. Like originally, full stack meant you could write a little bit of CSS and you had a reasonable backend knowledge, but in today's world, like, that would not make you full stack. You'd have to know infra. You have to know a way to deploy it. You have to not just know front end, but have a reasonable way of like a reasonable skill set in styling, not just using CSS, for example, but using some kind of CSS styled components. Yeah. Like there's a lot of frameworks that make your life easier. It's an interesting.
I see. So Alexander Gaberman is asking about purchasing Agile stationery.
You're
I'm not entirely sure.
Your local news agency that sells post-it notes. How many post-it notes can you buy in different colors and pens? That's all you need.
Yeah.
There's actually a website called agilestationery.com.
I'm sure there's money to be made selling T-shaped post-it notes.
Nice.
So Mr. Tickle's asking how come so many companies do open office plans? This is why I mostly go for remote jobs.
I think that's a question that everyone asks every single day.
Yeah.
Why would I go back to work? There's a lot of benefit. I mean, humans are very social animals, and there's a lot of benefit mentally and physically from being around other people. Maybe not every day in the way that we were, but I still think there's a lot of value in going to work and developing that relationship that only comes with meeting them in person. Because I don't think anyone on this meeting will say that they've made a really deep, long-lasting connection in the last year and a half over Zoom. Like you just can't do that. You need to meet people. You need to read their body language.
Exactly.
And that extends to work as well. Like a lot of work is done over the lunch table, over a coffee, and I think that is missing from remote work. I don't think that you need to necessarily work 5 days at the office. I think that's probably never going to happen again. But I think it's important to be at the office a few days a week. In terms of open office plan, that's just a way to pack in as many people as possible. I think there was this famous architect from America that originally designed the open office plan as a way to make I think architects work more efficiently, but over the years it's sort of become bastardized, and now everyone just thinks that a long bench, a row of seats is open office, but it's not particularly good.
Yeah,
that's true.
That's true. Though I completely agree with you, but in my workplace, our company has become, as in, say, a fully open office, so which means that I don't actually go to work at all, and I'm just working entirely from home. So when you said that it's good to go to the office at least few days a week, what are the benefits you would say working from home than going to the office would be?
So, I mean, the big thing is productivity and being, I don't know, enjoying your own time, right? Because the way that it used to work was that you would do your 8 hours, but then your commute to and from the office was on your own time. And I think that's quite unfair, especially for people that work a long way away. It's not even feasible. Some people work, in a rural town, and it could take them an hour and a half one way to get to work, and that's just a waste of their own time while they want to do that. But
Exactly.
that's one thing. But it can be so productive being at home and not constantly getting tapped on your shoulder as a sort of when you sort of become a senior, because it's really easy to constantly get distracted in an open office, at least for me. And I suppose that's why so many developers wear headsets, especially with music on, because it can be quite distracting in an office, especially in an open office setting. It's hard to concentrate. So I'd say the productivity and saving your own time on commute would be the two big reasons. But like I said, the benefit of going to the office is it's more of the soft skills. And as a junior and a mid, I think that's the most important time to be a person.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So Alexander Gamerman is asking, as senior hiring, a lot of people, does hair length ever play a part in who you hire? That's a funny question.
That is
No comment. I don't think there's age rules against hiring people or favoring people with hair length,
Yeah,
but I
that's
would
just.
ask them.
but you might get some big, so you want to watch out for that.
I think it's more about the culture you're in. Like when you like humans are just very primal animals, and humans find comfort in seeing people that sort of mirror their own style. So that's why you see, all the yuppies, all the white people, they all wear the suit. They all sort of want to act and look alike. So I think that it's that'd be a culture-based thing. I'm sure there are other cultures in the world where short hair is very odd and unusual.
That's true.
But I think diversity is more important than all of that.
Yeah,
True though.
that's
True. As in, say the personal attributes of the person, as in the physical aspects, shouldn't really play a part on the hiring, because the person is there to work, and we don't really code physically. We code from our brain. So as long as we have the soft skills and the brain to use to work, that should really be what matters to employers, don't you think?
Yep. Yeah, I think there's the low bar where you need to have personal hygiene, right?
Yeah,
Like,
of course.
that bar is even too high for a few people.
True.
I think everyone has the story where there's always that one person in the office that doesn't take their personal hygiene as seriously as they could. But above that, like it's all fair game. Like if you want to have long hair or short hair, it's personal preference.
I've actually gone over like a document. It was like a HR like document thingy. So it was from uni. So I was just reading over it, and it was kind of basically on how like these hiring managers kind of like differentiate between your personality and your appearance as well. Like sure, like they do want to hire people with good personalities, but your appearance could also mislead them. So you might want to watch out for that one as well initially. All right.
There's many questions here.
Right.
It's too
I'll just
open floor plan is definitely distracting. Wouldn't keep be productive than open plan. Productive in the sense that you would get a bit less distraction. You should watch the movie office space if you're interested in what it'd be like to have a cubicle farm. Very, very interesting, interesting classic American movie
Right.
about developers who live in a cubicled office. Working
nice.
from you don't have to have Scrum Masters. I mean, that's not true. You still have Scrum Masters even on Zoom. You can't escape those guys. And then, is it worth learning JavaScript more these days than Python? That's subjective. I suppose they both have equal value. I like JavaScript just because you can do front end as well as back end. I don't think Python's made the leap into doing front end as much as flexibly as JavaScript has, but it's definitely on the way. Like you can even do GraphQL and stuff using Python now. So like writing that middle back end for the front end, like in Python now as well, which is good. But in terms of the speed, they're very similar. So there's no real benefit there.
Surely. I don't think there are more questions, so I'd go ahead and ask mine. Zen, do you have some questions you might want to ask particularly, or do you want me to?
I just wanted to ask one question so far. So well, Andre, how would you say would be the transition from a junior dev to a mid dev?
I suppose it's general productivity and how much autonomy. I think the biggest thing that changes over time is your level of autonomy. So as a junior, you're not seriously expected to go off and do everything without any kind of involvement from your peers or your superior, your mentor or whatever. It's just not a good idea. Mostly because juniors and sort of it's like a curve when you start out in IT. You have a lot of unknowns, things you don't know, if that makes sense. Whereas over time, you start to know enough that you know what you don't know. Like you know that GraphQL and back end of it for the front end is a thing, whereas before you didn't even know that was a thing, for example. So that's one of the reasons why you should never sort of let a junior go wild, because it's only going to foster bad habits. But then it's more about the autonomy with that skill. So they sort of work in tandem. Once you can proven that you can write some endpoints or something, then you're given a bit of freedom to do it yourself again, for example, the second time as a junior. And I think the coarsest way of measuring a mid over a junior is just time in the industry. And that's just because experience is so valuable. And it's so coarse because like you could literally like in a career of like 30 years, you could be spending 10 of those years effectively asleep at work, not learning anything and not doing anything new. So experience is like there's different, variable value in experience years, but when you're a junior, everything's new, really useful. And I think, just coding, like Alexander mentioned, how many hours a day should a junior be coding? As much as possible. I mean, if you're in IT, like the value you add to the organization primarily is through coding or through tech. That's really what you should be focusing on. Like when I was starting out, like I'm probably an extreme example, but I was coding at least 12 hours a day every single day. Just because, like not on things that specifically that help me with work, like games development or something, making sites, like whatever. You find something you don't understand and you work on it, just like you guys are doing here, right? Like you really have to put in time outside of work. And, sometimes people in IT get a little bit precious. They're like, oh, I shouldn't have to do this outside of work. But it's common in like every single field, like a doctor. Like imagine a doctor that only learned from 9 to 5. Like that's not a thing, right? Like most skilled professions, you need to put in extra work unless you're extremely talented and you don't need to. But especially when you're starting out, to get off that curve of unknown unknowns, you have to put in as much time as you can. And that's probably why it's quite good to be sort of, I don't know, it's probably a lot easier when you're sort of a young, just a young person to find that time. Whereas when you get a bit older and you have a family, it can become quite hard to find that time.
That's true. That's
So
true.
yeah, the question is when do you go become a mid, and the answer is it depends. Like most things in life, it's when you become a mid when you see yourself as a mid, and when other people see you as a mid. there's no
Okay, yeah,
switch.
right.
Like if you go for a job right now and you get hired as a mid, you're a mid, right?
Yeah.
If you get
For
hired
sure.
as a senior, you're a senior. So it depends on look at a few CVs, and if you tick all the boxes, then you're probably you're suitable for that role. Then you're probably that role.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I've seen a lot of people make this junior to mid jump a lot faster these days. Like let's say like 4 to 5 years. I've seen my peers going from junior to mid jobs, but not sure if that actually means that they're on that. But yeah, I think it's easier to make that leap.
I think
True.
like a super rough rule of thumb is like 2 to 4 years between each role. So like 2 to 4 years as a junior to a mid, 2 to 4 years as a mid to a senior.
Yeah.
That's like a super rough rule, depending on how talented you are, I guess.
Yeah. Mr. Tickles.
I know some real young people. They're the smartest people in the world, and they just get everything a lot faster than us common folk. And the rest of us, it's all about time and experience. Like, yeah, you put enough hours in, you'll be as good as they are if they don't work hard.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Mr. Tickles has a comment that doctors aren't as important as programmers. I was reading this article that how software is the most expensive and most effort-worthy thing which is produced by humans. So if you think that, I support you, I guess. But anyway, Andrei, so what tech stack are you working on at Seek?
So one of the reasons I joined Seek was that their tech stack actually closely aligns with what my personal preferences are. So they've got a tech direction to use TypeScript, JavaScript, and TypeScript for the majority of their code base. And like all good things, it's you should use it, but there's no one language that suits all. Like for any sort of computationally expensive coding, if you use JavaScript, you're doing it wrong, because JavaScript just does not compiled language. So it's really important to have some kind of compiled language in your toolbox, as well as having another language like JavaScript or Python.
Yeah, that's true.
So we use AWS, but most companies have an interest in being multi-cloud, or at least using services from different clouds, but we primarily use AWS. A lot of our libraries we write are in-house. Like we have our own styling library, we have our own CI/CD library, and our the way that we do deployments is in-house, but we use something called BuildKite, which is the CI/CD pipeline, which is like Jenkins or GitHub Actions, or
right.
There's a million pipeline products like that.
Yeah. That's good. That's good to know. It's pretty good. Yeah, I was actually coming to multi-cloud only. So I've heard that NAB uses multi-cloud pretty extensively, and they're kind of forcing people to get on top of mixing Azure and AWS. That's what I've heard, but I'm actually not sure. So how
NAB
do you feel?
Interesting. I was there at NAB during their transformative multi-cloud.
Oh yeah, you were at NAB 6 months ago.
Yeah, well, more than that, but yeah, I was there a while ago. But it was multi-cloud is very hard to achieve. The only way you can really achieve it is to do a containerization. So because if you have the benefits of being in a cloud are you use their native services, because that's the value that the cloud, like AWS, has a bunch of AI stuff. Their Lambda function, function as a service stuff is really quite good. Like every cloud provider has their specific service, which is good. But if you write if you write a Lambda in AWS, it's you can't just copy it for Azure or GCP, right? Because it's coded for that product. So what you do is you then have an abstraction, right? Like instead of having all of your code in your Lambda handler, you have a function that takes a parameter, and then your Lambda function just calls that function with the parameter. For example, like general like general functional abstractions. Like that's the next level. So then you can copy and paste that function between multiple clouds, and you just replace that, that little wrapper. But then you dig deeper, and it's just not that simple. Like when it comes to IAM, user management permissions and policies, like that stuff is really deeply ingrained into how you code for each platform. And it's very, very difficult to do serverless, like secure serverless copy and paste between clouds. So then what you do is instead of using those serverless functions and that functionality that each cloud provides, you then use something like containerization, where instead of having your code like directly run in a service like Lambda or something, your container is the Docker container, like a box. And then the only service you really consume from each cloud is just the thing that runs the box. And because the Docker container itself is run the same everywhere, like you can run it on your Raspberry Pi if you wanted to, it means you can run that container every single place you want to. But that permissions issue still exists, and like you still want to consume some services. So if you don't do containerization, you can't do multi-cloud, and NAB wasn't doing containerization well at the time.
Yeah. So do you kind of think it's worth the trouble what people are trying to do in the name of, I don't know, for security or whatever it is? So do you think it's worthy of investing your dev's time into achieving this?
Yeah, well, the dev time is like inconsequential, right? Like the value that the dev provides is really like value for the company. Like if the company wants multi-cloud, that means there's a value that's higher than just productivity. And sometimes that value is compliance. That's like the number one priority. Like for a bank, if they're not compliant, they might as well not exist. That's more important than any specific developer productivity.
That's true.
So as much as the developers, complain and moan, like if the bank, for example, isn't compliant, they're going to be out of a job. So sometimes you just have to do the hard thing, and multi-cloud is one of those hard things.
Yeah, but keeping aside the compliance requirement, would you ever recommend this to any of your client?
No one in their right mind would do multi-cloud unless there was a high level reason like compliance, because it's because you have to not just become an expert of one cloud, you have to become an expert of all the clouds, right? Because you can't just not know about a cloud and develop an app and just pretend that you're an expert, and then the next day you have data exfiltration, you lost all your data, and you have a lawsuit, right? Like you have to know about the clouds, use the cloud. That's again the unknown unknowns. You should know enough about what you're doing to work on the cloud. So I would never recommend multi-cloud in the sense of identical workloads, but in the terms of multi-cloud, using each cloud's services, the best services selectively, 100% you should be doing that. So using AI services from AWS and using, containerization like Cloud Run on GCP, for example. I don't know, like every platform has their own services which they're known for and which they excel at. And feel free to mix and match. Like that's the power of coding, and as long as you have that core infrastructure that lets you work all that stuff together, then you're good to go.
Cool. We have a question from Alexa. Have you used Cockroach DB? I heard about this. It's actually
Cockroach DB is just like a multi-master Postgres effectively. So it lets you run different nodes, like different databases in different locations, but they all keep their data in sync in tandem. There's probably a better definition out there somewhere, but it's not common to have multi-master. So most services they have many replicas, as many secondaries as you want, but there's usually one master that keeps everything in sync. And more than that, there's not that many services that do that are cloud agnostic. So like being able to run that in a Docker container, there's not that many options. You can like AWS has services, right, that are multi-region, multi-AZ. They've got 6 read replicas. Like they've been designed to be redundant, but that's not what Cockroach is. Cockroach is that, but as a reusable container.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Right,
instead of using a service, you use that container functionality, which means you can deploy it on your Raspberry Pi, you can deploy it in AWS, you can deploy it on GCP, and you're not tied into that cloud architecture. Because you can, again, like you can either spin up Aurora and have all those functionalities, or you can use Cockroach DB and do it the hard way, and that depends on what you values the most.
Yeah, I'm good with Aurora. No thanks.
So let's jump back into some questions. So there's questions about TypeScript. Why would you use TypeScript when you use Java? If you code JavaScript at all, you should be using types because it gives you type safety. Like why would you not want to write safer code? And the overhead is practically zero. A lot of the types can even be inferred with TypeScript, and there's no reason to not be using types in 2021. If you're arguing against TypeScript, you're not making a really good argument. It's like your personal like happiness and being productive is not as valuable as the safety that TypeScript presents, and the company itself, the value that safety presents for the company is more valuable than your personal preferences for types. But again, like if you want to use a compiled language like Java or like C#, go ahead. I'm not saying don't use that. I'm just saying if you're using JavaScript, you should be using TypeScript. But as a developer, like it makes me so much faster having the types. So like if you import a library like AWS and you want to call a function like your Dynamo function in JavaScript, you have no idea what you're doing, right? You're constantly looking at the documentation. It's impossible to get started. Whereas with TypeScript, call the function and then suddenly in IntelliSense, it'll tell you what the parameters are. It'll give you documentation in line in VS Code. Like that gives you productivity. So I don't think there's an argument against it.
Or you could use GitHub AI. Up to you.
Cool. I think we have another question. That would blockchain replace the need for clouds?
Blockchain's interesting. Blockchain is effectively a ledger. So it's like what financial institutions have used for decades, right? Like it's just a ledger of every single transaction in order, except the difference is that everyone is the server. Everyone has a say in is this transaction valid? So to make, let's say that three of us are the nodes in a blockchain, and I say, give Andrei $1 million. People say no, right? Like that's the quorum. But if everyone says yes, then the row gets added and I get $1 million. Like that's effectively how, at a really dumbed down version, that's how blockchain works. So it's really good when you have distributed. You want that sort of that ledger value. You want some kind of data stored. Like you want transactions that can't be moved, replaced, or deleted. They're there. If you don't like it, too bad. So yeah, financial transactions are good. You can do things like website design and stuff on blockchain because it's not a great experience because every single time to start up the server, like you have to get all of those transactions, like you have to become the server and get all that data in the blockchain to do anything useful. So that initial bootstrap is going to take you hours or days. And that's the same experience if you want to start like mining Bitcoin. Like you have to pull that gigs, tens of gigabytes. But once you have it, like you have everything that's ever happened.
Right.
So will replace the need for cloud? I don't think that's the right question. I think it could replace specific niche things that originally right now have been secured on a server somewhere in someone's warehouse. But it's an interesting question. I think before we have to do the push-up challenge.
Yeah, I was just
5 push-ups.
I was really interested in that comment. That seems like a good way to end the video, I guess.
Yeah.
Push-up challenge. Glad that you didn't eat your dinner yet. So that's the good
I've
part.
had my dinner already. I just haven't had my second dinner.
Oh,
Okay.
second dinner. I like it.
All right. Cool. I think it was pretty really fun. And I'm glad that the questions are still coming in. That means this was a successful live stream, I guess. And yeah, it was really fun to have you, Andre. And I think
Yeah,
that this
we'll have to do it again sometime.
for sure, for
Yeah,
sure.
definitely. Yeah,
So
All right.
before we do the
definitely.
challenge, Zen, do you want to add something?
I just want to thank Andre for his time, the wealth of knowledge and experience he shared as well. Really, as in means a lot, and I'm pretty sure viewers got a pretty good insight from your experience and knowledge. So thank you for that. Do you want to add something to that, Andre, as well?
No, feels good to be
Got
on. It'd be good to
that's
get back to your regular programming and actually see some code next time.
Yeah, he shared true. As in, I wanted to work on the code as well, but then there were, as in many, thankfully, many questions coming. So I thought they would be just a good idea. This time we focus on the questions, and then
Yeah.
in the next stream we can actually have some fun with the code.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing the blog post for this stream.
Definitely, definitely.
Cool.
All right, you want to do a push up challenge, K?
Yeah. Let's. We need to adjust our
All right,
monitors on the
let's do it.
cameras.
Yeah,
Andre.
cool.
Wait, how many are we? We need to decide that first.
A cheeky 5. That's all they get
Yeah,
unless they
yeah.
subscribe to your channel.
Cheeky. Yeah,
All right.
cool.
Oh,
Let's
geez.
do that.
Oh, geez. Wearing my sweatpants. You going? You doing
There
it?
we go. Yeah.
Zen counts for me, so I don't actually know what's happening.
Right. So when I say 3, 2, 1, and then we go for say 5 each. All right.
All right, let's do this.
Cool. So 3, 2, 1, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
All right.
Good way to get energized.
There we go. And get hydrated.
Yeah. What is what?
That was
On
fun
fire.
there. Yeah, especially with Andre contributing as well. A lot of fun now. Right, guys. Thanks a lot for joining us. It's been a pleasure having all of you, and thank you, Andre, for your time as well. Looking forward to seeing you on the next stream as well when you're available. So let us know, and we'll love to do this again with you as well. Any thoughts, Karthik and Andre?
Yeah, just we should for sure do this. I could really see the chat box all cute and thanks. So that means it was a success
Success.
from
Yeah.
the audience point of view as well. So yeah, you want to add something, Andre, and end this?
Tune in to Raw Coders next time, 9:30.
Nice. We got Andre approved.
Yeah. That was a huge one. So yeah, all over and out. Same times, same place, and a different task.
All right. Cool. Good night.
Thanks,
Cheers.
guys. Cheers.
See you later.
Bye.